Welcome back everyone to Formula 1 2020. Welcome back to the Racing Reviews channel and welcome to the first of 10 episodes taking a look back through our journey in 2020, one by one going through each of the 10 teams on the 2020 grid, having a look at their highs in the season and their low points too. We will also be taking a look at each of the 20 drivers on our grid this year, and at the end of each episode we'll be throwing all of them into one big juicy tier list. Get ready for some spicy hot takes. I'm ready to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. So over the next week or two, feel free to subscribe if you are new. I hope you all enjoy, but let's crack on with episode number 1, starting with one of the most impressive teams over the course of this season. It's the boys and girls in orange, McLaren. 3rd place overall in the constructors standings, 6th place and 9th place for their 2 drivers in the drivers standings, and I think that really highlights just the continued development of this team, but I think more importantly how this team on an operational level has got to be one of the best on the grid, because that car was definitely not the 3rd best in the latter half of the season. I think it's safe to say Mercedes, Red Bull, Racing Point and Renault, even AlphaTauri and Ferrari on their day were mixing it up with McLaren's. However, the unrelenting consistency of both drivers, Norris and Sainz, having awesome seasons. Reliability was great, pit stops for the most part were fantastic, and where other teams would maybe do great qualifyings and then in the race struggle a little bit or vice versa, McLaren almost always managed to get at least one car into Q3, even if the circuit wasn't necessarily one which was suiting their car, and then they were definitely able to transform both of their drivers into solid points in the race on Sunday. And that's something that many teams, many driver pairings weren't really able to do, was work together as a team, have that backup of strategies in their arsenal to use. McLaren putting that all together for a mega season for the team and really setting themselves up nicely for next year, of course, with the Mercedes engine coming on board, but also 2022 with that big regulation change. 3rd place, a lovely cash injection for the team, also a slight takeover from American investors over the last couple of months as well. This team is a team that, whereas a couple of years ago it seemed to all be crumbling for them, what a comeback. 2019 was great, but 2020, goodness me, what a special season from the McLaren team. And as such, as we move into our first ever tier list on the channel, here is how things are shaping up. Of course, we've got our boys and girls in the legendary category. Which teams, which drivers were the best of the best in 2020? Their seasons will go down in history. Who was great? Who was good? Average? Bad? And whose season just needs to get in the bin? Fingers crossed we don't see anyone in that bottom category. But our first team, McLaren. Drivers will be nearer the end of the video, but McLaren, the team, this season has been great. I wanted to put it legendary. Their fight back over the last few years to get 3rd, I said it earlier, on an operational level, awesome stuff. But this is a team that should be fighting for championships, that should be winning races on a regular level. So I can't put them in legendary, but it's been a great year for the Woking outfit. For the 2 drivers, Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris, we know, it's so obvious how much these two get along with each other. The Car-Lando bromance blossomed even more throughout 2020. Off track, but certainly on track. Their head-to-head was the closest from the entire 2020 grid, and just take a look at some of these numbers. Qualifying battle, Norris 9, Carlos Sainz 8. Sainz will be gutted 2 years in a row out qualified by Lando Norris. Average qualifying, look how close that is. 8.23 for Norris, 8.29 for Carlos Sainz, which just so happens to be the exact same as Charles Leclerc, his future teammate for next season. Race head-to-head, once again Norris just having the edge over his teammate. 9 to Norris, 8 to Sainz, but where it really matters, the points. Lando Norris 97, Sainz just 8 in front of his teammate, 105. Sainz finishing 6th overall, Norris finishing 9th. That's how close the drivers' standings were over the course of this year. Their best qualifying, Norris was able to pick up a P4 right at the start of the season at the Austrian Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz picking up a P3 a few races later in Monza in that incredible weekend for the McLaren team. Norris picked up his first ever podium in Formula 1 in that first race of the year in Austria. Scenario 7 very much coming in clutch for the British driver. And Carlos Sainz, goodness me, that race in Monza, started third, already was having a stonking Grand Prix, and then the carnage ensued. A great drive back through the field from Sainz, fighting for the victory. He was so gutted to not be able to take it away from Pierre Gasly, but that whole weekend proved what Sainz is about. That's why Ferrari want him. That's why McLaren are losing a huge asset in Carlos Sainz, but both of them inseparable over the course of this year. For Lando Norris, 2020 really represents a season of huge development. It's exactly what he needed after a very up and down 2019 season. I was critical of Lando last winter, but this year I've got nothing but praise. What a season, what a driver he is really turning into. His first half of the year, pure magic, starting off with that massive highlight of a podium in Austria, and then always battling and just about in that fight for third place in the drivers' standings. He wasn't quite able to hold on to it once Max Verstappen started to find his form after a difficult start to the year, and then slowly as the year went on, had that huge heartbreak at the German Grand Prix. Surely would have been on for a podium if not for that mechanical failure during the latter stages of the Grand Prix, and that alone would have given him the points to be in front of Sainz and maybe as high as 5th in the drivers' standings. I guess we'll never know, but certainly his driving standards, his overtaking, his overall demeanour off track and on track for me has been so impressive over the course of 2020, and for McLaren, they know they're in safe hands. Next year, Ricciardo comes on board, and I think we're all aware he's going to be a very special driver at that team. But Norris, for me, this year has proved he can take the fight to Daniel. He's a driver capable of being McLaren's future. And if the team do continue to develop like they have over the last couple of years, with Mercedes coming on board next year, goodness me, Lando Norris could be a real frightening talent over the next few years in Formula 1. On the other side of the garage, Carlos Sainz, his final year with McLaren, and actually these 2 seasons he spent with the team have been brilliant. Going from a driver, a Red Bull reject, without a home after leaving Renault at the end of 2018, flourishing into a team leader at McLaren, 2 podiums in Formula 1, moving to Ferrari alongside Charles Leclerc. We know they're in their own issues, but still the principle stands. This driver has become something special in Formula 1, and rightly so. He has been one of the most consistent drivers over his 2 years of McLaren. No silly mistakes, no terrible qualifyings, terrible races, off weekends, super consistent, always scoring points, always in the fight in qualifying, and in a car which is in such a tight battle in that midfield. What more can you ask for? Once again, beating that 105 point mark, 6th in the driver's standings, the exact same as last season, was so close to his first Formula 1 victory in Monza. The list goes on for all the incredible things Sainz has been able to do at McLaren over these 2 years. The big difference for me this year was Norris's involvement with Sainz was so much more, giving the team more options in terms of strategy. Ultimately, they've been able to really benefit from that on the constructors' side of things. And whether making this decision to go to Ferrari is going to be a fantastic move or one in a couple of years he's going to look back and regret, we're just going to have to wait and see. But there's no denying Sainz is leaving something special here. McLaren have such a good energy at the moment, moving forward in all the right ways in Formula 1. He has been such an asset to the team. McLaren have been such a brilliant home to Sainz, and it's a partnership I think we're all a little bit disappointed is going to come to an end at the end of this season. Well, technically, it already has, hasn't it? We've seen Sainz in Ferrari overalls, and I don't know about you, But for me, it's not quite right just yet. But hey, when we get to Melbourne, if we get to Melbourne, I'm sure Sainz is going to flourish in that Ferrari. Right then, earlier on, we did our tier list for the team standings. But let's move over to the drivers. And this one, I feel like I've let myself down. I feel like you guys aren't going to be happy. But both Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris, I have put in the good section. Pushing great. I understand it's pushing great. The thing for me is I just had too many drivers within that great section, pushing that legendary section. I've just had to put both of them down a little bit because neither of them were really able to establish a dominant season over their teammate, though I suppose both of them were great. The one thing for me though that would have pushed them into that next bracket was just a year full of mega points. Norris started the season in magical form. At the end of the year, it dropped off slightly until we got to Abu Dhabi. Carlos Sainz, almost the exact opposite. Started off the season so shaky, was really struggling to pick up those points, and it wasn't until halfway through the year he even got into the top 10 of the driver's standings. Of course, finished on such a high note, and so I would give Norris the advantage over the two, but it's so close to call. I've put them in good, but certainly pushing that great category, nowhere near average. A brilliant year for the team, and of course I would love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. That has been your season review for the McLaren Formula 1 team. Tomorrow I'll be back with Alpha Tauri. What a year it's been for those as well, so keep an eye out for that. 4 o'clock UK time is the plan, so I hope you all can join me. Thank you all very much for watching. If you are new, feel free to subscribe. Have a great new year, and I hope to see you all in the next one.